What's going on YouTube? This is Decoding with Just Another Watchman. Just want to take time to make a short video about the red horse of Revelation chapter 6. Let's jump right in. So Revelation chapter 6 verse 3. We've all read this verse. You know, the red horse is revealed after the breaking of the second seal. And the rider is given the sword and the authority to take peace from the earth. And basically it says that, you know, all war and slaughter breaks out. You know, every time I've read this verse, I've thought that it means that the whole world is just going to be at war and chaos because this red horse is released, and it's just, you know, just one of the judgments, and, you know, it's just part of the seals being broken and open. But after I start reading through the scriptures, the Hebrew scriptures and the New Testament all together, this picture began to form for me. And so simply looking through Zechariah chapter 1, I see another red horse appear. This red horse is seemingly not just a person riding a red horse. Verse 8, you know, says a man's riding, standing under some myrtle trees with the red horse. But then later, all these horses patrol the earth, and they come back and they report to him, and he's called the angel of the Lord. In verse 11 it says that, you know, we've patrolled the earth and the whole earth is at peace. I listened to a man, I can't remember his name, but he had an interesting theology about this, and the Hebrew word eretz, which means, it can mean the whole world, but it can also mean the land. And his point on it was in Zechariah, or not necessarily in Zechariah, in Revelation, that basically all of these judgments are happening in the land and in the area known as the Promised Land. That was promised to Israel, because Israel only sits on a small portion of that promised land, and most of that land now is Islamic countries that hold that land, but that a lot of these judgments will be happening there. I'm not 100% sure, but this would be convincing that, you know, that they patrolled the land, especially in the Hebrew scriptures. It would have been really pertinent to that area at the time and the things that were happening. So in verse 11, these riders come back and they report to the rider on the red horse and say that the whole earth is at peace, or the whole land is at peace. Which is interesting, because in Revelation chapter 6, the rider was given the authority to take the peace from the land. So we see the patrol happening, and then we also fast forward in Revelation that the peace is taken away, and that authority is given by the rider on the red horse, which is interesting to me, because when you look at verse 15 in Zechariah chapter 1, this is God speaking. He says, "But I am very angry with the other nations that are now enjoying peace and security. I was only a little angry with my people, but the nations inflicted harm on them far beyond my intentions." So this kind of goes with the theme of, you know, Joel, and even later on in Zechariah, where God gathers the surrounding nations, and then some translations say that basically God gathers the whole world, because the whole world comes against God's people, which is Israel. The promise is given to them, and their treatment of Israel brings about their judgment. So the treatment of the nation of Israel brings about the breaking of the second seal and peace being taken from the land. So what that means to me is that Israel, the people of Israel, will not be enjoying peace at this particular point, but the nations that take Israel over, I'd say read Zechariah chapter 12, 13, and 14. You see what I mean, what's going to happen towards the end. And Messiah comes back and he, you know, puts an end to all of it. But this red horse is an angel of the Lord, which is interesting. And then when you couple this with 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 3, we've all heard this over and over again because we continuously hear countries calling for peace and security in Israel, not understanding the peace and security that Israel's going to get. Israel's not going to get any peace and security. It's going to be the surrounding nations that get the peace and security. And I find it interesting that before the red horse is released, the rider on the white horse is released, which we all know to be the Antichrist. And so to me, what that says is when the Antichrist is released, that's when Israel is going to begin to go through its turmoil. Now we know that midway through the tribulation is when this happens, which the great tribulation comes. So you could almost say that 3.5 years could go by before that second seal is actually broken, which is interesting. But that's my thoughts on it. I think that the breaking of the first seal and the releasing of the Antichrist causes a whole lot of calamity and turmoil. And 3.5 years in is when they began to take over Israel. And Jesus breaks the second seal and releases this rider on the red horse. And the peace that's being taken from the earth or the land is being taken from those who occupy Israel at the hands of the Antichrist. So, let me know what you think. It was something that was interesting to me. Leave your comments below. Subscribe. Peace.